Hey y'all, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, my name is Carrie and I talk about faith, family, and kids. Today's video is going to be all about how I set up for writing, or handwriting as you might see in the Abeka curriculum for the K4 material. Let's get started.
What's there to say? There's nothing but space in between.
So today we're going to be looking at lesson 51. The first thing says chalkboard/paper. You want to draw lines and write letters to match child's paper. So as you see, I currently have the lines from today's paper on the board, so I'm going to go ahead and erase that and get the lines written for this paper. So I'm going to do it just like you see on the paper here. I'm going to be putting, or actually I'll probably just leave the 3 S's here. This is the third day that he's been writing the letter S. So originally I'm going to write it in white and then I trace over it with yellow. I honestly could erase that and then rewrite it just to have the white again, but he understands the concept either way. Again, he is a 5-year-old, so I would just gauge based off of your child whether that's something you should do or not as well. But basically, I'm not going to erase this just to put the same thing back up. I am going to fix these down here. So on the bottom, we're just putting little letter I and then the blend C. So I'm going to be changing that all up down here and then putting in the right information. If you missed it in my last video where I talked about the chalk that I use soft artist chalk. Got this when I was in college. And then this as well, because the other set didn't have pink, and this is called the pink carpet here, so I used this set. And isn't it beautiful? I'm also going to be erasing this, which is something that the child did read too.
You're the only love that I've ever known, but we turned into a flower.
Now technically I probably could have kept that second "sa" and just erase like the second line for the U and it would have been "sit." But because I'm going to have a little bit more room by erasing this blue line as well, I'm going to make sure that I have it all evenly spaced and it'll be fine.
One more time. One more time.
If you want to get really technical, you can use a ruler to make sure that your lines are straight. I used a ruler when I first put the lines up, and since then I've just eyeballed it. Again, you just have to figure out what's going to be important for the child's understanding. If you see that the child is having a hard time slanting because maybe your lines aren't straight and it confuses him slant-wise, then maybe. But with this curriculum, you're doing a whole lot of tracing and you're not doing a whole lot of writing, except for when you've been tracing a letter for a really long time and then they might let you write it. But for the most part, I haven't seen any issues, so I'm not going to be extra about it and try to measure every line and make it perfect when I'm just going to mess it up in the next 24 hours to rewrite lines again. And the concept still gets across.
I was hiding like the moonlight that never shone. I should have told you that I loved you. One more time. One more time. One more time. I should have told you that I loved you. One more time. One more time.
It doesn't matter how long you put the dots in your line either, as long as it's obvious that it's a dotted line.
Oh, that's on my mind. I should have told you that I loved you. One more time. One more time.
If you are doing this on paper, I do suggest that you use one color for when you originally write it and another color for tracing. And I also suggest that you do use the colors like pink carpet and red dots. I always go back and put the red dot on afterwards so that it's easier for the child to see. You want to make the red dot really big and obvious. The next thing says materials, ABC writing tablet, page 47. That is this paper, and you can see in the bottom corner where it says lesson 51. And then it says Visuals Cursive Formation Guide S. Now, just like for your numbers, you're not going to actually have a individualized card. I know that in the school curriculum they do. They have like a card that's specifically for writing that's called the Cursive Formation card. But I don't think the homeschool material has that. They might, I don't know. But we just use this, which is the Cursive Formation Guide. And it's the same thing, just all in one spot. And if you're homeschooling, especially if you're only doing one, this is more than enough for what you would need the Cursive Formation Guides for. The first thing says, the Cursive Formation Guide, sing the alphabet song pointing to each letter as you sing. So I would get that guide again, and that's what I would use as we go across. You could use this orange one over here too, but it just has the little letters on it, so either one is fine because I don't think that they go into capital letters until at least towards the end of the year, if not in K5. So I'd have to look at it. But then we get to the instruction part, and it says S. Trace/describe formation of S. What that means is usually on this chart right here you would do that, or on this paper. So usually I use this paper because it's closer to the child. And then you can use the end of your pencil with the eraser to kind of trace and describe as you're tracing it. And then notice that it has the chalkboard icon and says trace first cursive S while you review formation. So that's when you go over here in your first little letter S, you go ahead and trace that. Then it says have child write S's on chalkboard/paper. Watch for formation problems. He could practice writing S in air or on his handy chalkboard while looking at guide. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll write fun little things up here for him to write that letter inside. So I might do like a rocket ship or a pumpkin, or I've done towers before that are like for the Batman signal, like all sorts of fun stuff. Or you can just draw a fun design. So I'm going to go ahead and use dark blue and just draw a fun design. And you want to put red dots inside of whatever you make. You don't have to do that part. Obviously, it doesn't even talk about doing that in the curriculum. But it just adds some extra fun for the child, and they kind of know how big to keep their letter. When it says practice writing in the air, this is how I do it. I have the child make a red dot in the air, so I'll say get out your pointer finger and put a red dot in the sky and have him go, and then he puts his finger on that red dot and I do the formation with him in the air. Then I have him blow it away usually, just like that. Then it also says handy chalkboard. So that's when you're just like, get out your handy dandy chalkboard, which is their hand, and say put a red dot. And once they do that, you can have them put their finger on the red dot and trace on their hand as they're looking at the cursive formation guide. Application. ABC Writing Tablet, page 47. Have child hold pencil in pencil rest and watch as you demonstrate tracing first S on chalkboard/paper again. Have him trace first S in first house. Repeat process for remaining S's. Talk through formation slowly and carefully as child writes letter without tracing. So honestly, I think that might be a typo when it says talk through formation slowly and carefully as child writes letter without tracing, because it just got finished talking about how they're finishing all the S's on this page. So each one is tracing. I'm guessing if you wanted to put an extra red dot on there and have the child try to write it on their own, that's great, but I do think that's an error there. Basically, when you do pencil rest, you just make sure that the child is holding their pencil in the right position, and you have them put their pencil on something that's on the paper. For example, I might say, pencil rest on the blend set. And then they would hold their pencil in the correct position. So you want to make sure that the pointer finger and the thumb are right next to each other at the end of the paint, and the other fingers are supporting the pencil underneath. And you want to make sure that the pencil is in between this knuckle and this knuckle. So a lot of kids might put it in the valley. Make sure they've got it up here. And again, the triangle pencils are really good for starting out with writing. I actually have these up here too, and that helps the child to see how they should be holding their pencil. The next thing says, have child hold pencil and pencil rest and watch as you demonstrate formation of I in second house. Talk through I slowly and carefully as he traces. So again, you pick random things on the page to have them rest their pencil on. But if I were to say pencil rest on the blend se, if this is him, he would just rest like this. So all you're doing is keeping your pencil in the same pencil position, but you're touching the tip of the pencil to something so that the child's not accidentally writing all over the page or writing elsewhere or getting distracted. This helps the child to stay focused. I often have the child pencil rest on pictures on the bottom too. But this also gets his brain working if you can give him a blend and he's got to find it and then pencil rest on it. Next thing says, demonstrate tracing blend se before he traces. Emphasize not picking up pencil until he has finished writing entire blend. Again, I don't always go word for how the curriculum wants you to say it. I make up my own thing that makes sense to the child that I am caring for. So again, cater it to your child. And then something that I can keep consistent. So for this blend, I would say start on the red dot, slant up to the dotted line, retrace just a little bit before dipping down to let his belly touch the pink carpet. Swing back to touch his back and retrace carefully back out and up to the dotted line. Retrace carefully back down to the pink carpet and smile. Dot your I. So notice that I don't ever stop in my talking of little letter S versus little letter I. I don't like stop with little letter S formation like I normally would and say smile right here. So you want to describe the formation you're doing. Don't let the curriculum get you so caught up in memorizing stuff that you're just like saying them separately. So the child needs to understand that these are connected and you don't smile at the end of S like you would up here. Okay. The last thing says, have child circle the child who is sitting. Then have them circle blend sit and word sit. Read blends in the box together. So they would circle this child. They would then circle the blend in this word and then read all the blends in this box. And that's pretty much it. Whenever we get to the very last thing, whatever we're doing, let me show you today's paper actually because the child did amazing. Alright, so this is the child's paper today. We actually forgot to do circling the blend in this word because I was gonna do it before we started doing the writing and he got really confused and I was like, well, if we're writing the blend "sa" a bunch, maybe it'll click in his brain that that's the blend that he sees in that word and we'll come back to it. And we just forgot to come back to it. But he's doing really good in his tracing on here. He actually really did do the best tracing I've ever seen. But when we get to this last one, I always say last one, best one. And he loves it. So in that last one, he tries to go extra slow. What happens is a child is excited that they're getting to the end of writing because there's very few kids who actually enjoy writing, let's be honest. So you want them to get excited and stay excited in writing class. You want to present opportunities for them to be involved. So that's something that I let him do. Is say last one, or I'll say last one, he'll say best one. So he knows that this one should be his best one. Kids tend to rush when they get to the end of a paper. So that helps them a little bit to kind of stay consistent all the way through and do good in their writing. So that's another thing is sometimes I will write words of encouragement on here. There are times in the curriculum where they specifically say write comments, do 2 positive and 1 negative, and then save it in a separate collection. So I've done that here. I just keep those papers here. I've only had a couple so far. You want to, like, for that, be a little bit more specific in what you're doing, circling things, and you want to make sure that you're actually writing with correct cursive if you're going to write notes like that, especially on those papers. Definitely always have some stickers handy. This is a sticker, it just happens to be a writing sticker. But for example, with markers on this paper, I did hearts and smiley faces. This just keeps the kid excited about writing. If you want to know how I set up my binder, by the way, for the 5-year-old, comment down below and let me know so I can show you how I set all that up. That's pretty much it for writing. I will be showing an example of how I do writing with a child so you can see exactly how it plays out. But that's pretty much it as far as setup. Just make sure that you know how to write cursive, and it's pretty easy if you follow the curriculum yourself. The thing that I would suggest the most is that you really make sure the child is holding their pencil correctly, has good paper slant, has their feet on the floor, back against the back of the chair, they're sitting up when they're writing. All these are really good habits that you have to establish early on, and you have to set them in real good or else they will stray away from it. I got to 6th grade and I was still doing writing because in the Abeka curriculum you do. I was still writing in cursive, I should say, because past then I think you were allowed to write in print, I'm not sure. But even in 6th grade I was struggling because each teacher, as I went through the years, they did not really focus on pencil position, and I don't think it was solidified for me in my younger years. So I actually had a really hard time holding the pencil right. I didn't learn how to hold the pencil right until I was in college. And they were like, I took a class called Teaching Writing, and they taught us in that class how to hold a pencil. And until then, I literally did not even know like how to do it. I could see a picture of it, but I didn't really like understand how to do it, I guess. I don't know. So yeah, that's super important, because once you have the pencil position down, the child's hands are not going to get, they're not going to hurt as much. Like if you do this is what I used to do, your finger freaking hurts after a while. But no, like if you hold it the right way, you could write forever, and it puts the least amount of pressure on your fingers, and helps with carpal tunnel. You want to make sure that the child's not writing like this when they're writing. They want to be moving their whole hand as they write. So that also is supposed to help with carpal tunnel. Again, these are just things that long term you want your child to have a good habit of. Thanks so much for watching today, and I will see you guys next video.
Say, there's nothing but space in between you and I. It's okay that we change, but it feels kinda